Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be explaining how I build community around myself with like-minded people. Now, this was a request from Abundant Marcus, so thank you so much Marcus for requesting this video, and I really hope it gives you something. Through this journey, I have learned how to connect with people who are truly like-minded and how to connect with people who you can really have a very raw, authentic connection with. And I've also learnt the things that prevent that kind of connection. And I have also learnt why the very solitary moments are very necessary in life, and how kind of the universe, spirit kind of leads us in the directions we need to go in, because sometimes it's so necessary to be solitary. And then sometimes when we're struggling to find people we connect with, that's teaching us something. So there's so many layers to this, and I'm hopefully going to go into all of it, and hopefully you'll walk away from this video feeling even more equipped with the tools to find people who you truly connect with, to find connections that truly hold space for you. So along my journey, the main thing I have learnt to achieve genuine connections is authenticity. And obviously, if you watch my channel, you have probably seen me speak quite a bit about how authenticity leads to genuine connection, and about how we cannot have genuine connection if we're not willing to be authentic with people. And I very much see how in another chapter of my life, when I really had no one in my life who I had any genuine connection with, even online, because it's the same in my physical life as it is online. It all boils down to authenticity. So I can see back when I did not have any genuine connection, it was because I was not standing in my authenticity. I was not embodying my truth because of certain things like fear of how it would be received. And so that was a massive block between me having connection. And I really remember that when I really took that step to just choosing to stand in my authenticity, my whole life changed in that moment, and all of my connections changed. And I'll be completely honest with you, some of them completely ended, because obviously when we stand in our truth and we speak and embody our truth, that naturally highlights who is in alignment and who is not. So something that happens when we take that step and have that courage to say, actually, this is who I am, and this is what I think, and this is what I am passionate about, these are the things I'm really into. When we take those steps, very often we experience people, naturally being like, oh, I don't resonate with that, that's not me at all, I think that's weird, I don't get that. And so rightly so, those connections come to an end, and that's amazing, and that's actually a blessing, because it's clearing the path for you to connections that are actually in alignment with your truth that you are now embodying. So when I did step into my truth, this happened. Many of the connections ended, and it honestly felt like such a relief for me, because, and I've spoken about this before as well, back when I was in this place when I was much younger of not embodying my truth, I literally just felt like I would come home at the end of the day and just peel off like this fake skin, and I would take this kind of fake outfit I'd been wearing, like a spacesuit, which was this image of someone I was not, and I just finally breathed because I was alone, so I could finally just be myself. And so when I just took off that fake suit in front of everybody, and I was just like, this is who I am, it felt like such a relief. And I think for many of us, I know for myself, we get, when we've spent so much of our life just feeling not safe to express our truth and feeling afraid because of certain insecurities, we get to this place where we're like, we're just not breathing, because I've spoken about this before, authenticity, truth just happens, it doesn't take any effort. But being fakery or holding everything that you truly are back is akin to not breathing. It's like holding our breath in. And so we're spending so much time when we're not embodying our truth, essentially just not breathing. And so it's such a relief when you finally do. And so many of us get to this place where we just can't take it anymore. We just can't take it. And we just suddenly say, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And that is an amazing moment, and that's a blessing. But many people are afraid of that moment because they know that it is going to lead to certain relationships ending, and that's very true. However, it is necessary to allow true connection, because we cannot find true connection while we are still clinging on to this kind of mask that isn't who we are, in order to keep the connections that aren't in alignment with who we really are. Part of this process is realizing that and having the courage to take the mask off and say, actually, this is who I am. And I don't necessarily think that you, Marcus, need this advice. However, I can't speak about this subject without mentioning this, because this authenticity and having the courage to stand in it really is it is how I've attracted people who are actually in alignment with me. So I can't not mention that. And it's also necessary to mention, because even those of us who are standing in our authentic truth, and those of us who have worked on this and are have become comfortable embodying our truth in front of anyone, regardless of what they may think, or whether they'll dislike it or whether it will lead to conflict. Those of us who are in this place, it is still a continuous practice to embody our truth. I spoke about this in a video the other day. It's none of this stuff is one and done. You don't just wake up one day and you're like, I'm expressing my authentic truth now and it's done and I'll be this way forever. It is a continuous practice. Embodying our truth and standing in our authenticity is a continuous practice, because there are so many factors at play. There are so many things within us that motivate us to do different things, and can motivate us to hold back, and and so we have to kind of constantly be asking ourselves, am I standing in my truth? And if not, why am I not standing in my truth? Because we're moving through life, we're in these different situations, we're around different people, and even those of us who are quite conscious with this and are making a conscious effort to embody our truth, we still end up in situations where we may be in a situation where we're feeling the people around us may have quite a visceral reaction to us expressing our truth, and perhaps disagreeing with them, or saying, actually, this is who I am, I don't relate to that, I don't want to do that, this is actually what I'm interested in, or this is how I feel about that thing that you just shared. And so when we have these kind of emotional factors at play, these situations where we're recognizing us expressing our truth may lead to conflict, sometimes we do, without realizing, hold back. And so it is a continuous practice that we are always doing. And in these moments, we need to ask ourselves, why am I holding back? Am I holding back because I have intuited that, I'm not in a safe space, and so it's better for me to just observe and not be involved? Have I intuited that that is what the situation is calling for? Because in that case, you are being authentic, you are listening to your inner guidance, and you are following it, which is you standing in your truth, and that is you standing in your authenticity. Or are you holding back because you are afraid? Are you holding back because you are acting out of insecurity? Are you holding back because you are trying to cling to how people see you? Are you holding back because you have fallen for this illusion that that not showing people your authentic truth maintains connection, when in truth it only maintains connections that are not actually in alignment with who we are, but instead the mask we're wearing. And so sometimes we get into this place where our mind kind of tricks us to keep the mask on, because there is this kind of like mentality where it's like, in order to maintain connections, I need to keep people liking me, and that means I need to agree with them, and I need to keep this mask on that they like, and that they're connecting to. And so in these moments, we need to remember, actually, that's just keeping them connected to a version of us we are actually not. And we need to have the courage to stand in our truth. And these moments are really calling for that. They are giving us an opportunity to stand in our truth. Because, something I've learned along my journey is that, you can't bluff the universe. You have to seriously be willing to be outcasted and rejected in honor of yourself. I'm committed to myself. This is who I am. And so I will commit to that, even if it means I'll be outcasted. You need to be willing to be rejected and outcasted by people. You can't bluff the universe, And, this ties into a point I made the other day, that authenticity does not necessarily mean sharing. And it also does not necessarily mean not sharing. Authenticity is about following our truth and our internal guidance in the moment, in each moment. And so, because, I am regularly in situations around certain people, and my internal guidance tells me, do not share with them, do not give them access to you and who you are. And it's very important to be paying attention to that, okay? So standing in our truth and being authentic does not mean sharing all the time, okay? Sometimes it does mean holding back because your intuition is telling you you are not safe with certain people, okay? So following that intuition and that internal guidance does not mean you are not being authentic. In fact, it means you are being authentic because you are following your truth, which is telling you, I am not safe to share myself with this person or these people. So that's a distinction we really need to make and remember. One of the really amazing things that I noticed happen when I started embodying my truth with people who I had even had in my life for a while was that many of the people we have around us who we think would not resonate with the things that we are actually interested in, like, say, for example, spirituality. Something I noticed when I just took the leap and I just stood in my truth, not caring if people outcasted me, if I was rejected, seen as a weirdo, just letting it happen, because I was deciding to be more committed to myself than, connections that were not really connecting. That act of me standing in my truth actually liberated a lot of people around me, and I realized many of them had been doing the exact same thing I was doing. So one of my friends who I had not been standing in my truth with, I had not been sharing with her all the things I was genuinely interested in and genuinely thinking about, and when I just took the leap and I just did it, she was like, oh my God, I think the exact same thing. I've been thinking about these things too. I see things the same way. I'm really interested in the same things. And many, many times these really beautiful things happen when we stand in our truth. And I can safely say that most of the genuine connections I have in my life they occurred that way, by me and the other person just kind of taking the leap and just choosing to, talk about the things we really think and we're really into. And we both then had this moment where it's like, oh my God, I think the same thing. Like, oh my God, we're not weirdos to each other. We're actually into the same things. We think the same things. We're into spirituality, conspiracies, whatever. And so when we take that leap, like, yes, it's going to lead to relationships ending, but it's also the only thing that can lead to genuine connection, because we cannot connect with people if we're not actually showing them what's really there. They can't connect to you if you're not actually showing who you really are. If you're not showing your authenticity and embodying it, they cannot connect to that. So this is one of the biggest parts of building community around you, and it really is kind of like the bottom line, the foundation of all the connections I have in my life, including online. When I started YouTube, I was fully aware that when I started YouTube, many people in my life and online would think I was really weird. And, I chose to do it anyway because it's my truth. This is who I am. Like, my YouTube channel is literally just me sharing my journey with you. It's not me being a teacher or whatever. It's literally just me sharing my journey with you as I go along it. And so choosing to embody my truth in that way and share my truth in that way has also led to like-minded people seeing it and being like, I really connect with this. And I've connected with so many people by doing this online. So the bottom line of the community I've built around me physically and online is it all comes down to authenticity and having the courage to stand within it. Even when you know certain people will be repelled, even when you know certain people may be upset with you, even when you know certain people may think you're weird. Another really big part of my journey and connecting to like-minded people has been choosing to commit to my purpose in life. Because the thing is, our purpose, the thing we feel kind of divinely called to do, is a direct reflection of who we truly are. That those things that we feel so deeply passionate about, that's a reflection of who we are. That is a huge part of who we are. So when we commit to that path, it is a huge energetic statement to the universe and to the people around us. It honestly sets off like a whole frequency that people around you feel, because I noticed that when I really committed to my purpose, because energetically I was committing to myself, I was saying, this is who I am, and so I am going to do this now and commit to this. And when I did that, I also noticed many like-minded people kind of just naturally coming to me. Ask yourself, just explore this. Do you feel called to do certain things? Do you feel called to share online? Maybe it's artwork, maybe it's music, maybe it's a combination of those things, as it is for me. Maybe it's cooking, like whatever it is, what do you feel divinely called to do? Because giving yourself to that path as much as you can, depending on your specific life situation, giving as much of your time as you can to that and sharing it with the world is a really powerful energetic statement. It's you saying, this is who I am. And that will naturally attract people who are in alignment with that, because they're seeing that. They're seeing you essentially saying, this is who I am, this is what I'm interested in, this is what I feel, this is what I think. So that's a really powerful way to create community around yourself. Another thing I need to mention about something I've really learned about community and people coming into our lives is that many of the people that come into our lives are for specific reasons, to do with specific things we need to learn and heal. And so this is just something, because like I said at the beginning of the video, there is a purpose to the solitary moments and there's a purpose to the moments of community, and there's different purposes for these different things. And so something I've really learned along my journey is that kind of back when I was on the earlier stages of my journey, and so kind of less embodied, many of the people that were coming into my life were more kind of karmic, and it was more kind of because we had a lesson to teach each other. For example, about boundaries, setting boundaries, speaking our truth. It's like many people come into our lives to give us an opportunity to heal wounds and to grow and to learn these lessons that allow us to grow. And so this is something we really need to be aware of and allow space for. And as I've gone along this journey and I've allowed myself to take those lessons and heal, the more I do that, the more I noticed connections actually coming to me that were connections that clearly were not just for the purpose of teaching each other a lesson. So although within these connections there was still so much growth, it's just a different kind of growth. It's like certain relationships I have in my life that I absolutely know are not karmic relationships. We are still teaching each other lessons. It's just in a very different way, and it's in such a beautiful flowing way. It's like we'll have these amazing conversations where we're just bouncing off of each other, and we're just like continuously giving each other epiphanies. And it's that kind of growth. It's like, it's honestly just, it feels like, you know, you can just feel source within that relationship. Where there's a karmic relationship, it's often more like tumultuous. It's, you know, karmic friendships and relationships are often more kind of they're often a bit more just a bit more tumultuous, you know. You probably know what I mean anyway, but you know, and I think usually the reason is because they're not meant to last. So, you know, a big part of moving into a space in our life where we can have connections that are actually kind of meant to last is obviously paying attention to our own personal journey and whether or not we're actually allowing ourselves to grow from the lessons that are being brought to us, often through people, through karmic friendships. Because usually if you don't allow yourself to do that, you tend to stay in that cycle. So either the same person keeps coming to you to give you that lesson, you know, that person who really triggers a certain insecurity, or that person who really tests your boundaries. They are coming to you to give you an opportunity to heal that insecurity, to finally assert your boundaries and step into your truth. So until we do this, we kind of stay in that loop, and that is kind of preventing us from actually experiencing these connections that offer us, you know, a different kind of growing, where we're kind of growing together, you know, and having this really amazing flow of growth and healing that we experience together in union. So this is what I kind of mean about parts of our journey being a bit more solitary, you know, that there is a purpose to that part of our journey. It does have a purpose. In my experience, that part of our journey is usually the stage where we're being called to kind of face and heal the avalanche of insecurities and wounds we kind of naturally have as human beings, especially when we're kind of a bit further back on our journey. And so that kind of solitary time where, you know, kind of the only connections coming into your life are kind of tumultuous or just kind of a bit dead, you know, there's no true connection in them. It's to teach us something. And the only way we're going to kind of move past that level is if we allow ourselves to receive that kind of healing and growth. And like I said, when we do, we then experience these more kind of wholesome connections where we're at, that it's like the connections are given to us so that we can then grow and heal in union, because there certain parts of our life are meant to be healed and grown in solitude, and certain parts of our life are meant to be healed and grown in union. And I've really intuited that my whole life and seen it in my whole life. And obviously you know, we're always going to get karmic relationships come into our life and karmic situations, but I have really noticed in my own life that as you know, the more, when I really allowed myself to take all of those lessons and just really dive into myself and do the shadow work, when I came out of that, I definitely started experiencing way less karmic relationships. I really do not have any consistent karmic relationships in my life anymore, karmic friendships or whatever. I tend to just have the odd karmic experience, and that never ends, because the energy of the universe, you know, the God frequency, the mother frequency, it is the frequency of growth and expansion. And so whenever there's like a wound within us or a place that's kind of limited, we will always be brought, we will always be drawn to what we need to help us heal. And usually that is something triggering that wound or that limitation. So that never ends. But the more we are conscious with that growth and that healing, the less we need karmic relationships, okay? The less we need them because we're facing ourselves. Karmic relationships are often brought to us to highlight something we are not facing. So the more we face ourselves, the more we clear the path for connections that are actually here to stay and for us to grow and heal in union. So this is something super important to pay attention to when you're wanting to create community, lasting, healthy, wholesome community around yourself. So a couple of things I'm going to recommend for you to do is in no particular order. The first thing is try just with people you may not think are interested in the kind of topics you're interested in, just try throwing something out there, try having a conversation with them and see where it leads, because I have done this before and it's actually liberated the other person, and suddenly they're like, oh my god, I can take off my mask with you. And that's such a beautiful thing when that happens. And I've also seen people do it with me. Like I have friends close to me who said, you know, when I met you, there was something about you that just called me to just start this conversation with you and start speaking about these particular subjects that most people aren't into. And it honestly just turned into this beautiful conversation where we were truly connecting. But the first step to that is taking that leap and saying, okay, I'm going to embody my truth, even if someone might think I'm a weirdo, or I have this awkward moment where they kind of reject me and they don't like it and they think I'm weird and whatever. You know, like I said, we have to be willing to experience these slightly uncomfortable moments if we want to genuinely connect, because we cannot genuinely connect unless we're standing in our truth. Another thing I would recommend for you to do is, as I've explained, really focus on your inner journey and make sure that you are really taking the lessons from the relationships that are coming to you. Really pay attention to what relationships you have in your life, and you know, notice, do you have kind of repeating patterns within your relationships? Do you have many relationships in your life where you feel like you cannot be yourself? You know, really look at these things. And because like I said, the more we take these lessons and these opportunities to grow and heal, and these opportunities to stand courageously in our truth, the more we kind of move past this kind of this place where we're experiencing so many karmic relationships because we're not kind of allowing the light to be shone within us at the things we need to look at. So I'm not saying necessarily that you're doing that, but for anyone who is listening and you're on this journey and you're wanting to create community, that is something you're going to need to look at. We have to recognize if our life is full of karmic relationships, and if it is, we then need to look at why, if we want to move past that kind of super karmic stage. And then I would also recommend to you to really look into your purpose and the things you feel called to do, you know, the things you feel passion for, and to really look at ways that you can be expressing them and sharing them with other people. Because when you put those expressions of yourself out there, it naturally, you know, it's an energetic statement. It says, this is who I am. And so when we do that, it naturally, it's like turning a light on. It's like you're now, you know, you're like a beacon now. You're a light that's saying, here I am, this is who I am. And obviously that can be very scary. But as I've explained in this video, we have to courageously step into our authenticity. That's the only way to truly connect. You know, just like I did with this channel, it was very scary for me at the beginning, you know, to put myself out there and to say, this is who I am and these are the things I'm interested in. But as a result, it's attracted to me people like yourself who resonate with that. So follow those avenues. How can you express who you really are? How can you share that with people? You know, that's a really good way to create community. And another thing I would recommend is really just to say to spirit, I am ready now. You know, I commit to this journey. I commit to wherever you lead me to. If I still have wounds I'm not acknowledging, I will follow that. I will follow the triggerings. I will follow the path to those things. I will work on those things. I will follow the path to true connection. You know, tell spirit, tell God that you are ready to go on that journey now. And, you know, really, anytime I ask for, you know, assistance and I say I commit to something, I really do receive guidance, you know, and you will too. So definitely make that kind of energetic statement within yourself and to God, to spirit, you know, say that you're ready for connection now, and then be willing to receive any guidance that you are given on that topic. Because when you ask for connection, you will be led down a path that leads you to connection. And that could be anything. That could be you've still got major wounds to heal that are attracting karmic people, or it could be that you need to be a bit more courageous and step in your truth. It could be that you need to really start sharing yourself and saying, this is who I am. So be open to receiving that guidance when you say you are ready and you commit to this path now. So I really hope this video has helped you. And as I said, Marcus, perhaps not all of these things will actually apply to you, but I do hope that there is something in this video that has helped you. And, you know, just speaking about this idea of creating community, you know, the things I have explained for me at least, and on my journey and in what I have done, expressing our authenticity really has been at the bottom line, and also looking at our shadows and working on those things. This is all the things I've explained are what has allowed me to achieve genuine connections. So I kind of had to go into all of that. So I don't know necessarily if it applies to you, or maybe it does on some level in just a little bit, or I don't know, but I hope something in this video has helped you. And thank you so much for connecting. And thank you so much for being here. I really hope it's helped, and I'll see you soon.